Hello, good day. Let's continue our discussion to topic number three, how to improve your study skills. Studying is defined as devoting time and attention to acquiring knowledge, especially by means of books, and to look at closely in order to observe or read. In simpler terms, studying is essential to learning. It is through studying that we learn. We have discussed before ways on how to improve learning, and for this lesson, we will look at ways on how to improve especially our study skills. First and foremost, create an ideal study space. Learning space or learning setting refers to a physical setting for a learning environment. It is a place in which teaching and learning occur. The term is commonly used as a more definitive alternative to classroom, but it may also refer to an indoor or outdoor location. It can either be actual or virtual. In creating your own study space, you must consider first, create an appropriate study environment. You will need limited noise, a lot of sunlight, a tidy surface, and comfortable furniture. Find a quiet place to study where you will not be bothered. This is very important and should be given great care in doing. Next, get everything you need before you sit down to study. Pencils, pens, notebooks, papers, your laptop, textbooks. This minimizes time you'll spend in trying to find or locate where your materials or equipments are. Having them right in your study space, right exactly where you organize them, will also help you concentrate. Then avoid distractions. Distractions can be internally or externally. Internal distractions refer to your physical, mental, and emotional status, such as being sick, hunger, and going through some rough times. External distractions come from the environment, such as noise, people, and gadgets. If you have family members that distract you, politely ask them to leave so you can continue with your assignments. Make sure that the TV and the radio are off, and if you need um, background noise, classical music might be of interest. Remember that the key to distraction is not to avoid them, but to manage them, specifically by having a proper time for each. Then make things easier on yourself. Develop a calm attitude. Become and patient with yourself. Nobody learns anything and nobody learns anything straight away. Do not feel frustrated if others are learning faster than you. Everyone has their pace. Do not force yourself, but try to find other ways to learn or study. Remember that not all strategies are applicable to all. Then make sure that you get enough sleep. As we have discussed before, a good night's sleep boosts your concentration. Staying up late studying is not a good idea. Lack of sleep prevents you from concentrating and reduces your ability to remember what you have learned. Therefore, cramming is not effective. It may be true that in cramming, the information may seem fresh as you have just read them, but it may result to information overload. Moreover, studies show that cramming information is not good for retaining information for the long term, which means you're likely to forget those informations immediately. Then develop a schedule. All students should keep a schedule of classes, assignments, and other key dates. As part of that schedule, one should set aside specific time for studying and project work. That way, they are less likely to find themselves scrambling to complete a project at last minute or cramming the night before the big test. The schedule should also set aside time for non-school activities such as sports, family, friends, and your hobbies. Then take note in any classes that you have. You can even take notes at work. It may be easier to use abbreviations for common words and only record important information and keywords. Use clear headers to organize information and use pictures, diagrams to demonstrate the relationship of each information. Then highlight or underline key points in your materials. Also, it would be nice to develop a study group. This way, you can quiz each other and learn things from each other. And as we have said before, having a study group helps you look or observe things from different points. And lastly, take frequent breaks. Go for a walk, ride your bike, or be with your family. When you take frequent breaks, you find that you are not boggled with stress or of homework and you cannot wait to get back to your assignments later. It also helps refresh your perspective. We must take note that studying for a straight or long duration of time can stress us mentally, physically, and even emotionally. Say, for example, you've been sitting or looking at your computer for an hour or two, better stand and walk around or stretch for at least 10 to 15 minutes. It also helps to look at things that are closely related to the color green as it helps refresh your eyesight. Moving on, develop a good study habit. Start with the homework that is hardest for you. For example, you are taking chemistry, math, English, and Spanish. Start with chemistry and end with English. If you start with the hardest subject, your brain will be fresh. Now, this type of study skill may not be preferred by everyone, but the reason why we should finish the hardest first is that our brain is still fresh or not yet stressed or overworked. So after all the hardest activities, you can now feel at ease as the latter tasks are easier to do. Then develop memorization techniques. You can use lists when having to memorize several things. Flashcards are good for memorizing large amounts of group information. For visual learners, picture association is advised. For auditory, try associating cue words to specific sounds. And for kinesthetic, relate the cue words to bodily movements. And then develop critical reading skills. As we move to higher grade, we can be assigned to larger and more complex type of reading assignments. And poor reading skills or an inability to read for important information will make these assignments a burden and undermine the overall academic success. We should learn to deliberately learn to read for key information. We can do this by practicing the use of skimming, skipping, and scanning. This will greatly help, especially if we don't have enough time. However, the best thing to do is to expose ourselves to different types or genres of books and references, and then focus on the areas that require the most attention. Study things more if you have a hard time doing them. Learn to prioritize your activities. In making your timetable, understand the difficulty and the nature of each task or activity or topic so you can properly allocate the needed time for each activity. Improve your test taking strategies. An effective test taking strategy includes learning how to prioritize material when studying for a test, preparing for a test over a number of days and not just the night before, coping with stress during the test, and managing time during a test so that all sections or areas are completed. And as we have said, cramming is not advisable. It is best to regularly read or scan your notes. This will help you familiarize concept and enables retention of information for a long time. Moving on, ask yourself questions. Ask yourself questions while you read or study, and then answering them will help you make sense of the material and aid you in remembering it. because of the process will make an impression on you. Those things that make impressions are more meaningful and therefore easily remembered. Also, it is best to have a clear objective of what would you want to learn. This will become your guide to determine which pieces of information are more important. And lastly, don't be embarrassed or afraid to get help. When you do not know what to do or when you don't know how to do things or how do you know how you don't know how to study for something, do not just rely on what you know. Know and accept your limits. Talk to other people and ask for their guidance or input regarding your concern. Also, when listening for information, do not be too critical. Be open minded, listen intently, and understand what they have to share before giving your feedback. Okay, so those are some simple things that we must take into consideration if we want to improve our study skills. Thank you.